What's up and welcome back, Worry Writers. It is week 4 of NaNoWriMo 2021. I know. And we are here to talk about it. I'm Alex and I live in Los Angeles, California.
And I'm Jay Lawrence. I live in Berlin. And today we are going to talk about that annoying little voice in your head that whispers bad thoughts and tells you that you're a failure. But before we get into that dark topic, let's talk about something fun. Alex, you want to give me the question of the day?
Yeah, let's do a little bit of humor before we get into all that
Laughter helps
dark.
a lot.
Yeah, it does, definitely does. So, question of the day, Jay, have you ever written someone into a story who is someone you met in real life and potentially someone you didn't like very much in real life?
Oh, yes, I have. Only once though, and it's not somebody that I knew personally. So what I do when I'm out in the world is I kind of make mental notes about people that I meet on the street and kind of make characters of them and put them kind of in my back pocket, like back pocket characters I can pick up when I need somebody in a scene. This person was a very, very angry and rude post office worker. She was just, for no reason at all, ridiculously difficult to deal with.
I feel like I remember you telling me about this person for some reason. I feel like it was one of those situations where you were so mad that you had to tell me.
It was that bad. It bothered me for days because, as a rule, I try to be really, really nice to people who work in any sort of customer service job, service industry, because they have to deal with some pretty terrible people. And, if I can make somebody have a better day, treat them like a real person, smile, ask how they're doing. I try to do that. But this person from the beginning was bound and determined to make me have a terrible day.
This was a couple weeks ago, right? When you guys were getting something shipped.
Yes. So she is getting written into one of my short stories as herself. I don't know who she is, but she's a character. What about you?
So I guess I misinterpreted the question initially. I thought you were talking about a person that you knew personally, which I have definitely never done. I know that that's a really popular thing, that people just write people in their lives into their stories. But yeah, I've always thought that was a little weird, and I've never done that. But people that I've met, like you were saying, just out and about in the world in real life, I definitely have taken aspects of those people into my stories. But I think for the most part, most of my characters are either, iterations of myself or iterations of other characters from other things. So I try to stay away from writing about real people because I don't want to get sued.
Yes, that's a very valid point. Okay, so let's talk about the goals that we made last week. Give me a progress report. How you doing? How was your week?
Well, we're recording this on Thursday rather than Wednesday. I wasn't feeling well at all yesterday, but it didn't have to do with writing, thank God. It was just, I think my body was just exhausted from, as you can see, I finished putting up my bookshelves. So I made progress with my bookshelves. But I also made progress with the story as well. I had wanted to work on the central story arc because I had previously only been working on the individual characters. And so I wanted to focus on the story as a whole because I had been kind of neglecting that. And I think even though I didn't get a whole lot written because I really didn't do a whole lot of writing this week, the bookshelf fiasco took up the majority of my week. I did make a lot of progress, and I figured out what the central story was. I knew it was going to involve a war, and I knew that there was going to be some backstabbing near the end of the book, but I wasn't quite sure how all of those things were going to play out together. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that my story kind of resembled a retelling of the Helen of Troy and Trojan War story. And so I was doing a lot of reading on that, and I was watching some Wheel of Time this week because that came out, and just a bunch of these things kind of culminated together into me having this huge epiphany on Saturday night. I think I even texted you like right as I had the epiphany, because I was so excited. I was lying in bed. I had just finished watching Wheel of Time. I went to bed. I was lying in bed and it hit me. And it was one of those things where I was lying in bed and I think out loud, I just said, holy shit. Why have I not thought of this before? And it wasn't necessarily something that was pertaining to the first book. It was more the series as a whole. But it was one of those plot holes that was really throwing me off, because the explanation that I had, my placeholder explanation, was just because magic. And because I hadn't thought of a good enough explanation to insert into there. And because I didn't have that yet, I was trying to write around it. And that was a really difficult task, trying to write something for a situation that I hadn't created yet. And so now that I have it, I think it's really going to help me going forward. So I may not have been as productive on the writing front, but on the idea front, I killed it this week.
Nice. Congratulations. Yeah, you did send me a message. It was 4 a.m. my time.
I know it was like 10 my time, and I knew that you weren't awake yet, but I was like, she'll read it when she wakes up.
Thank you.
What about you? How was your week?
I had a pretty rough week. I burned out pretty hard because I had a couple days in a row over 3,000, 3,500. I think that I think I just kind of dried up, and I think that I put a lot of pressure on myself to hit the 50K. And this last week I was still low enough to where I thought that I wouldn't be able to hit the 50. But far enough to where I was thinking, but I have to. I'm so close.
Yeah.
I can't run out of steam right now. And because I kept saying that to myself, you have to, you should be able to push through this. You can't run out of steam. I think it just made me burn out harder and faster because I was constantly thinking about it and constantly worrying about it. So I think for about 3 days, my total word count was 400. So
it's valid, I think.
Yeah, so those were some pretty low days. I would say that I gave up during that time. I said, you know what? I'm just going to let myself off the hook. I'm not going to, I'm going to try my best, but I'm not going to push until actually today, a really good writer friend of mine who knows how to push my buttons in terms of getting my competition flared up, basically kind of pushed me back into it. So
nice.
I had a really big day today. It's going to be a 5,000 day, and hopefully I will still be able to hit that 50,000 and win Nano, but we'll see. It's going to be a hard 5 days.
I mean, you were telling me how many words that you needed to get in order to hit 50K by next week. And it's 100% doable, especially with the word counts that you've been hitting lately on the days that you've been writing and been productive. Like, it's totally doable. So I think you're gonna do it.
Yeah, it's just the difference.
One of us has to.
The difference is that I'm not a marathoner. I don't have the stamina to hit the big numbers multiple days in a row. I think that I tap out around day 3, and then I kind of shrivel up and need a couple days of recuperation, and then I can hit bigger numbers. So this is going to be 5 days of big numbers. I think it's like 2,500 a day to hit the 50 by Tuesday. So it's going to be a little bit of a push for me, but that's getting into goals for next week. Let's get into the topic of the day, shall we?
Let's do it. Yeah. So as you were saying in the intro, we've all had our brush with the dreaded imposter syndrome, and we've all had that stupid little voice whispering in our ear, all of those negative thoughts and all of that stuff that just really gets you down and can be really demotivating. So number one, how often do you usually hear that voice? Because it's probably different for all of us. And how has that voice affected you during this Nano? And if you have any strategies for getting over it and putting a stop to it, what are some of those strategies?
Yes, I do have those feelings quite often, especially during this Nano round, but it depends. Sometimes I'll have them multiple times a week. Other times I could go week, 2 weeks without having those self-doubts or without having that voice telling me that I'm an imposter and I'm a failure. I think a lot of it has to do with external factors. Right now, because of Nano, it's a lot of pressure. And
Yeah.
the more pressure that I feel like I'm under, the quicker I am to let those thoughts kind of invade my mind.
Mhm.
Because outside of events like this, sometimes they're easy to swat away. I'll always have that little voice in my head, questioning things, telling me, that oh, that sentence sucks, and no one's going to want to read your shit. And I can kind of, it's like a fly. But
Especially when there are books titled like writing craft books titled "No one wants to read your shit."
yes, which I have, by the way. It's a great book. But other times they can be really crippling, these thoughts, and they can
Mhm.
completely derail an entire day or an entire week, like I was saying earlier, because of all the pressure that I was feeling in not hitting that 50,000 mark.
Mhm.
I was equating the number 50,000 with my success as a writer.
Yeah.
And
I think a
I
lot of
was
people do that as
yeah,
well.
I think so. And I was allowing that to really fester and tell me that I wasn't a real writer. I didn't have what it took to be a full-time writer, because if I did, I would do whatever I had to do to hit that number. I think that pressure for me has a lot to do with it. In terms of ways that I push it out of my mind, for me, I think physically getting out of the space that I'm in when I'm hearing the thoughts helps a lot,
Mhm.
like getting into a different room, getting out of the house, getting in the shower, something that physically changes around me is something that I use to kind of change my mindset as quickly as I can.
Environment change.
Environment change, yeah, because if the longer I sit with the thoughts, the louder
Mm.
they get, and that's when it's harder to turn them down.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have them quite frequently. I'm tempted to say every day, but I know it's probably not every day. Maybe I'll have some form of a negative thought every day, but I don't feel them being as crippling every day. Like there's like a sliding scale. This Nano, it's kind of ebbed and flowed. Like in the beginning, especially when I decided that I wasn't going to hold myself to that word count, because even if I wrote 20,000 or 30,000 or 40,000, I was still going to feel good about myself because it was still several thousand words more than I had before. But at the same time, as we got further and further into Nano, I started to question whether or not I was really dedicated to the story. And that was the negative voice that I was hearing. And I started to question whether or not I was the right person to write this story, because I had so many pieces from it missing. And because I'm writing epic fantasy, it's not my strong suit doing like the world building for that. Even though I really like it, it's something that when I'm on, it's a lot of fun. When I'm not on, it's not a lot of fun. And that's the challenge. And hearing that voice questioning whether or not I'm the right person to write this story, even though I'm the one who came up with it, you know, that was so crippling. And it was so upsetting too, because this is a story that I really care about. And so hearing that voice saying, yeah, you're probably not good enough to write this, was just really, really demotivating. But one thing that I think really helps is, instead of focusing on that voice, because it's really tempting to listen to that voice, is to just open up my notebook and read my notes,
Mm.
because no one else would have come up with all of these different aspects of the story that I came up with. And I think reminding yourself of the different things that you've created and looking at the stuff that you've made helps a lot. But one thing that has reminded me constantly, I am a decent writer. There are people who like my writing, and this is why I should keep doing it, is getting involved in a fandom and writing and posting fan fiction. Like, it sounds really silly to a lot of people, but when I started to get involved in the fan fiction community and started posting my own stories, I have never had people read my writing before I started doing that. That was the thing that really got me to share what I was working on with other people. And if you want to be an author, that is a huge part of it. Unless you're involved in a writing group and unless you're like regularly sharing your writing with other people, it's just you. And when it's just you, it's very tempting to listen to those little voices in your head that are telling you that you're not good enough because you're not having any other kind of feedback from anyone else. Like just having that community and workshopping your work with others, it's just such a breath of fresh air because you are finally stepping. It's like you're walking outside for the first time, you know, like you've been cooped up with yourself this whole time. And then you have this whole world out there for you, full of people who want to read your writing and want to help you with your writing as well. That's like the biggest piece of advice that I can give. And that's one of the things that I think that helps me the most is just to share your writing with other people and ask for feedback. You know, initially it can be really terrifying to share your work with other people, but if that's your goal, get it out of the way. Like get over that fear, share it with someone, get beta readers, get that feedback. And, you know, I'm willing to bet it's not going to be as terrible as you're making it out to be in your head because probably you are a better writer than you think you are.
Yeah, I'll just mirror that because I've never done fan fiction and I haven't been part of that community, but I have done been part of several writing groups. And when I'm active in those groups is when I'm usually feeling the most confident in myself as a writer.
Yeah.
Not only in my abilities, but also, you know, in my drive. There's something about being around other people that are writing or talking with writers about writing that makes you want to write.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you feed off of energy. I definitely think that one of the best things that I have done for myself as a writer is build a community of people.
Yeah, same.
So let's talk about goals for the last 5 days. You have 6 days, I have 5 days.
Yeah, time difference.
Time difference. So what's your goal for the final days of Nano?
Well, based on some hard advice that you gave me the other day, because I said that I wasn't going to hold myself to 50K, I think you were right in telling me that I still needed to pick a word count goal to hit, because the more that I've told myself I don't have to do the 50K, I think the less I've written the last couple of weeks. And I've allowed myself to get really distracted with other things. And I think it's still important to have a goal in mind. And so right now I'm sitting at around 14K. I know so many people out there have so many more words written than me, but you know what? It is over twice as much as I wrote last year. So that in and of itself, I think is beneficial. But I am going to try to hit 25K. I don't know if I can do that. I'm going to try though. I think I will have to hit it's between 1,500 and 2,000 words a day between now and then to get to that, but it is doable. It's going to be difficult, but it's doable, and I just have to buckle down and do it. And thankfully the last big push, and thankfully I'm off work right now, so you know, for the holiday and everything, so I don't have to worry about that because I have been working a little bit more than I usually do, so that's going to help, I think. And yeah, I think I'm going to try to find some other writers who are doing like live stream writing sprints and stuff to participate along with. And now that I've had that, you know, my big Saturday epiphany of helping me figure out this plot hole that I was missing for a really long time, I think it's all going to come together and I'm going to be able to hit it. So that is my goal for this coming week. What's your goal for this last week, this last push of NaNoWriMo?
I'm shooting for that 50. I'm going to do it.
I think you can. You are so close already.
I'm close. It's still a lot of words between me and that 50, but I'm at 37 now. So it'll be about 2,500 a day for me from now until the end. So I can do it. But like I was saying before, you know, for me, it's about longevity. Can I do it from now until Tuesday? I'm going to try. I'm going to really give everything that I can.
I think you can do it. You wrote 5K today. Like that's so much. If you just have 2.5 more days of writing 5K, like then you're done.
Oh yeah, wouldn't that be nice? But yeah, so that's one of my goals. And the other goal is going to couple that I am going to try to get through the end of Nano without burning out or having a complete breakdown. I'm
Okay.
feeling very frazzled right now.
I was gonna say, we've had so many burnouts throughout this whole thing, but complete breakdown, that's a little bit different.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to try to get through Tuesday without, breaking down into tears. I'm sure I can do it.
I think you can do it. And even if there are a couple tears between now and then, I mean, to me, that's just part of the writing process. So,
Right. I mean, we put our blood, sweat, and tears into this craft.
Exactly. You have to, in order to have good writing. I think you kind of have to.
So before we say goodbye, we have an announcement, don't we?
Yes, we are. I've been wanting to do this for a really long time, and I think we can do it. I think we're still on, right?
Yeah, we're on.
So rather than having a last wrap up video for Nano, we are going to be doing a live stream on the 30th, our final thoughts on how Nano has gone for us. And you guys can join us and ask questions and all of that good stuff. Maybe we'll even do like a writing sprint within it. I don't know.
Sure.
I could.
Yeah.
It'll be morning for me, so I'll probably still be needing to get words in, and for a lot of other people, I'm sure.
I will sprint with you, but I will also be having wine and hopefully be celebrating being done.
If I don't have to work later that day, maybe I'll have a mimosa or something.
Yeah, breakfast drink.
Exactly. So
Great, so then
that will be on the 30th. I'll put the time and everything for that in the description below. I will see you on Tuesday. And for everybody else, wherever you are in the world, we wish you happy writing.
happy writing.